Welcome to the Riedell Report, brought to you by College Baseball Central, bringing you 90 feet closer to the greatest show on dirt. Now, here's your host.
You had a great start. Welcome in, College Baseball Central fans, to the first ever live edition. I've usually written articles under this surname, the Riedell Report. You've seen me in the past do live shows with Noah Darling, Jake McKeever, and now even with the Diamond Report. And it was time that I got to talk about something that I really care about, mid-majors. Little about me as we are going on this journey together. The Riedell Report is going to bring you all things mid-major. I know other organizations, 11.7, they do their mid-major rankings. We're not going to do that here. They are great at what they do. We're going to focus on something much bigger in mid-majors. This is the first episode of hopefully very, very many episodes, and I'm very excited to be the first live show of this new rebrand at College Baseball Central, where we've partnered up with NCAA insiders, Matt Grisham, Quentin Mills, their crew. You're going to be seeing a lot of them on College Baseball Central, and you see in that bottom right corner that new College Baseball Central logo, and it is beautiful. We're back, folks. We're back. We are in week 1 of college baseball. Opening day is this Friday, and if you haven't already, let me show you what I got in the mail. Let me see. You see this? If you don't have one of these copies already, you need to go get one. The Diamond Report, me, and 5 other of some of the smartest people in college baseball came together. Me, Monty Taylor, Matt Grisham, Quentin Mills, Noah Darling, Noah Bunick from 11.7. We all came together and made the first college baseball preseason guide, and I'm so happy to have been part of this crew. You can still go get your digital copy today at www.diamondreport.com, and that'll get you ready for Friday. I'm so excited to get on this stream and finally talk college baseball with all y'all. We have a lot to talk about today, and I mean a lot. Opening day is Friday, and we got a lot to talk about. The first thing we are going to talk about today is we're going to bring out my rankings. First things first. This was the rankings that I put into the top 25 in our Diamond Report, and I know what you're going to think. Andrew, you're making a mid-major show. How come you only have 2 mid-majors in East Carolina and Coastal Carolina? The 2 Carolina mid-majors that are the top over there. And that's because, I don't know. I think it's very tough to not have some of these schools not in the top 25 right now. I'm looking at it on my other screen right here. UCLA with Rock Chalowski and them returning some key contributors from last year. Obviously, LSU, the national champs, they should be in the top 2 in every ranking. If they're not in the top 2 of every ranking, are you a serious organization? And then following through, Texas, they returned Dylan Volantis, who will probably be their Friday night starter. They bring in Carson Tinney. They bring in Aiden Robbins, a former mid-major guy at Seton Hall. They bring in to rejuvenate that lineup. Georgia Tech in year 1 with Coach Ramsey over there. Obviously, the Diamond Report model himself, Drew Burris, will be leading the way there. He's a front runner for the Golden Spikes Award. And obviously, Von Lackey behind the plate. He is a stud back there. And then a little, this is where we get into where some people see it differently, where you get TCU at 5, Arkansas at 6. We see it differently. TCU, I'm a big TCU guy. I'm really believing in this TCU squad behind former mid-major guy Tommy Lepore. He was with Wichita State, and Sawyer Stroh-Snyder. That's a stud right there. You want to talk about a stud? That's a stud. And then obviously Coastal Carolina. They don't really lose that much. They lose Jacob Morrison on Friday night, but who do you replace him with? You replace him with front runner for a lot of pitcher of the year categories in Cam Flukie. You bring back a lot of your lineup. Dean Mathos, he's going to be a big part of this lineup this year. You bring back Barthel, that's a lot. So obviously you have independent Oregon State, who will be part of a new conference next year in the rejuvenated Pac-12. Their pitching staff's probably one of the best in the country. North Carolina as well, another great pitching staff. And then I'm not going to go into all 25, but I will get into East Carolina. East Carolina, this is a team that, if you ask some of them, they had a down year last year because usually they're in that talk to be hosting these regionals, and they didn't. They ended up going to Coastal Carolina as a 3 seed. They knock out Florida game 1 with some little extra energy thanks to Coach Kevin O'Sullivan biting off some legs there. But East Carolina, this is a team. We're going to get into that in a minute, but East Carolina, this is going to be a scary, scary team this year. A scary, scary team. We're talking about East Carolina potentially hosting and being in this top 10, top 16 national seeds again. Next up, we're going to be talking about the mid-major coaching changes. We had 22 mid-major changes, and a lot of them have came recently, especially Nevada and a few other schools. Nevada, Jake McKinley is joining the Seattle Mariners organization as a minor league assistant, and he's leaving a very good squad off to Jordan Getzelman. If I've asked around some big areas, some big circles out west, asking, what is Nevada getting in Getzelman? He was an assistant there. He's been with McKinley along this journey, and he's very highly regarded in this industry. I mean, Nevada returns a lot of key pieces to win the Mountain West Conference again, but they're probably going to be favored to win this conference again, but Nevada's in very good hands. San Diego State, they fired Sean Cole. This is a team that's very highly regarded. Tony Gwynn, Mark Martinez, Jim Dietz, those are some of these former coaches at San Diego State that just elevated San Diego State to that national level. This is a team that had stars like Steven Strasburg. Obviously, Tony Gwynn played there too. These are teams that are used to being in the national spotlight at San Diego State, but they struggled under Sean Cole these last few years. What do? They fire Cole. They bring in Arizona pitching coach Kevin Vance, who was a very big part in the development of Owen Kramkowski, Smith Bailey, and a few other key arms. Tony Pluta, who was the stopper of the year last year, he's going to step into San Diego State, and they're expected to win right away. They bring in a lot of strong portal talent. They bring in about 5 guys from Oregon State and themselves. I wouldn't be shocked San Diego State is fighting with Nevada for a conference out west as well. And then we get into some tricky ones here. Tricky in the Midwest area where Jason King is coming back to Dayton after 1 year at Vanderbilt. Some say the grass isn't greener. Kinda. Scott LaSalle takes a job in Duke, joining Coach Moose over there at Duke. So Jason King returns after a year in Vanderbilt. He was 165 and 171 in his first couple of years there at Dayton. Thought he can get a better job at Vanderbilt, but nope, finds himself back at Dayton. And I remember hearing about this when Coach LaSalle was joining Duke. Some players were blindsided by this. I remember the days after Coach LaSalle leaving Dayton, we were seeing players enter the portal. That Dayton lose one of their best freshmen in the country. One of the best freshmen in the country last year, Ryan Lulo, who transfers to Georgia. And Dayton, he returns after 1 year at Vanderbilt. This is going to be a very interesting project, especially where he is so highly regarded at Dayton. So I'm excited to see Coach Jason King back in Dayton. And then Creighton's bringing in, well, not really bringing in. Mark Kingston takes over for Coach Ed Cervantes after Coach Cervantes retires in his final year after they get a Big East Conference Tournament championship. They got to the Fayetteville Regional, and they were eliminated by Arkansas in the final games. Mark Kingston steps in, and I know some South Carolina fans are wishing that Coach Kingston was still around after the first year and a half with Paul Maneri at South Carolina. Mark Kingston joins a very, very talented Creighton team where they're expected to compete for another Big East conference championship. This very talented Big East. We're going to see multiple. Hopefully, we're going to see multiple bids from the Big East this year, and it's going to be a very, very good year in Omaha, Nebraska for the Creighton Blue Jays. And then finally, we have ULM, who parted ways with Mike Federico. His son is Hayden Federico at Ole Miss. They bring in former Memphis assistant Ford Pemberton, this is a very interesting hire. When I was hearing about this, and when it finally got confirmed, it just seemed like a very interesting ULM's in Monroe, Louisiana. It's a weird athletic department over there. If you didn't know this, S.J. Tui, the son from The Blind Side, has taken over as athletic director at ULM, and ULM's in the Sun Belt, and they're going to have some very interesting years to come, especially with little brother Louisiana Tech joining the Sun Belt next year. But we've had 22 coaching changes in the mid-major levels. A lot of coaches started taking that domino effect when Tony Vitello jumped from Tennessee to the San Francisco Giants. A lot of teams jumped ship, and with their coaches, a lot of coaches ended up seeing that opportunity, saying, okay, maybe if I go to this opportunity in the major leagues, I can see it as a way of maybe going to a Power 4 school in a couple years. Eastern Michigan was affected by this, and a lot of other coaches, and I feel like people don't understand this. University of Massachusetts, Lowell, I believe, was affected by this. These coaches don't get paid that much. A lot of these coaches are working a lot, especially the assistants. When you go to games and you see 4 or 5 coaches working their butts off, you got to really appreciate them, because they are working their butts off to just make that paycheck and to continue to chase that dream of coaching at the college baseball or the professional level. They don't make that much money, and I feel like that's what people don't understand when you see some of these reporters talking about, oh, a third paid assistant at the D1 level, a fourth paid assistant. That is that is waves happening in the college baseball landscape. We want to be seeing that change happening in college baseball, because when more people are getting positive work done in this industry, it's so good for the industry in itself. But yeah, Tony Vitello started that movement, and obviously Jake McKinley took advantage of it. He's with the Mariners, and there's a bunch of assistants that have happened to taken this jump as well. So, and from talking to some other people, I don't want to get too ahead into the future because we're not even at opening day yet. This summer, if some jobs happen to go the way they go, or some teams are projected to go the way they are projected this year, this summer is going to be very, very fun to watch with the coaching carousel. You thought football was crazy? There might be some coaching news coming out very soon. Let's just say that. Moving on into this, moving on in the show, we've talked about coaches, but now we got to get to know some of these players. I thought, Andrew, do I want to do 10 players, 10 pitchers? It's crazy because everyone you've been hearing about right now is Cam Fluky this, Cam Fluky that. We're going to talk about Cam Fluky. I promise we're going to talk about him. But I feel like there's some other guys you need to know in this level of baseball, because some of these guys are Power 4 kickbacks, like Harrison Feinberg, who's at Southern California. And then some of these guys are walk-on legends, especially Braden Burris. Braden Burris is one of my top 10 guys to know after breaking out of ECU. He was a huge reason in why the Pirates ended up making a run in the American Conference Championship. He was named the most outstanding player in that tournament after just raking all over the American pitching right there. And he is expected to be a breakout player in the American this year. Some other guys to know, Evan Dempsey, you might have heard of him. He's okay, in my opinion. No, he's a stud. Evan Dempsey, the John Allred two-way player of the year last year after pitching to an ERA under 2. with 75 strikeouts and also hitting .315 for the FGCU Eagles over in Fort Myers. We talked about Harrison Feinberg a little, but let me get more into him. He hit .367 with 18 home runs and 67 RBIs last year, 6'7", right? Sorry, my players that are definitely watching this, they just hated that. But Harrison Feinberg, he led the CAA in RBIs last year, and we're going to talk about who was second in that in a minute with Nico Azpilicueta over at Troy now. But Harrison Feinberg, when I went to Boston and I got to speak with Mike Lavin, he couldn't stop talking about Harrison Feinberg. This kid is a dog, and he was a big reason why Northeastern went on that big, lengthy winning streak last year, and he's expected to be a big part of this Northeastern team this year. Northeastern, they lost a lot of players. They're bringing in a whole new weekend rotation this year, but things aren't going to change what Harrison's doing for this lineup. It's a very favorable ballpark over there in Boston, and I do not expect him to not go off again. He is going to go off, and he might even be in some Golden Spikes conversations when that comes around. Do not be surprised. Another guy, Nico Azpilicueta over at Troy. He transferred into the Sun Belt and with the Troy Trojans after a few years over in Stony Brook on Long Island, New York. Nico, he hit .320, 20 home runs, 61 RBIs. He was second in the CAA with RBIs. And that Stony Brook lineup last year, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Stony Brook a lot because this is a team last year where their hitting was so good, and now that lineup's going to be completely new. Some key contributors, Nico, Eric Paulson, who transferred over to UNC. He had the option to go to another mid-major school in Coastal Carolina, but chose North Carolina way before that. Nico, he's a stud. He's probably going to be all over the place for the Troy Trojans this year, but his bat is so good that I wouldn't be surprised if he competes with a fellow Troy Trojan for Sun Belt Player of the Year in Blake Cavill, who we'll talk about in a minute. Matthew Pichero, who, if you got the Diamond Report, you know is my pick for the MAC Player of the Year over at Fairfield. He went off last year for 15 home runs, hitting .345 and 67 RBIs. There's that number again. He is a certified stud up north. We don't give the MAC enough love that they deserve because they are up north. It's a lot of small schools. They come down south. They play all these top 25 schools just to get reps in. And then you don't hear about them till tournament time rolls around again. And you look at them and you're like, wait, they were just getting their butts kicked by LSU. No, they're a 3 seed here in give me a random school. We'll go with Charlottesville with Virginia because they're going to host this year. A lot of these teams will be led by some of these guys on this list. Matthew Buchera is a star in the making. And then right under him, Caden Bogenpol, outfielder. He was a freshman All-American in his first year at Missouri State. Kind of had a setback year last year. He only hit, 13 home runs instead of 20 in his first year at Missouri State. Missouri State is moving to the CUSA this year, if you didn't know that. And he is a projected first rounder in this upcoming MLB draft. The sky's the limit for Caden Bogenpol. Some news with him: he did battle some injuries in the fall, but he is expected to be a full go in the spring, and he is someone to watch out for. We haven't gotten over to my guys on the right side yet. Drew Detlefson, which I know some UTSA fans that are watching this, they are loving that I'm talking about him. Drew Detlefson, this is a UTSA team that raked the ball last year. They got to the UCLA Super Regionals after upsetting Texas in the Austin Regional last year. And Mason Little was the talk of that lineup, it felt like. Mason Little this, Mason Little that. James Tossing this, James Tossing that. No, Drew Detlefson was a huge part of the UTSA success. He was the 2025 American Newcomer of the Year. He hit .310 last year with 13 home runs and 70 RBIs. Every time he came up, there was always a runner in scoring position. It felt like watching him play in Clearwater for the American Conference Tournament was a sight and behold. His BP is something else. He rakes the ball all over the place. Going over to another American center fielder in Marshall Lipsy. Marshall Lipsy is the definition, in my opinion, of loyalty. We saw the FAU Owls get decimated by the transfer portal last year. Trey Beard leaves FAU to go to FSU. Jake Dewar and MJ Bollinger, they leave FAU to go to Texas A&M. Marshall Lipsy definitely had opportunities to go jump ship and go to some other bigger Power 4 school, but no, he's staying in Boca Raton, Florida after hitting .318 with 12 home runs last year, and he is a stud in the making as well. He is going to be awesome to watch this year, and I'm very excited to cover him being back in Florida. He is a projected first-team all-conference Diamond Report as well. If you know that if you got your copy. What's waiting? You got to go get it. Just go get it. And then we're going to get into the Southland, as I am repping Lamar today. The Southland Conference right there. Brady St. Pierre from Southeastern Louisiana. He is going to be a stud this year. He ended up pitching in the bullpen for the Southeastern Lions. Yep, Southeastern Lions. I blanked on that. I blanked on that mascot for a minute. Sorry. He was a huge part of their success for getting to that 1 seed in the Southland Conference tournament. They ended up not making the NCAA tournament, but Brady St. Pierre and Southland, they are known for their pitching. That is what's going to keep them going this year. They're going to be very good on the mound. They're going to be competitive on the mound, and do not be shocked when Brady St. Pierre is up there talking for some mid-major pitcher of the year categories. He was my pick for the Southland pitcher of the year as well. Mikey Bell, the West Coast Conference Player of the Year last year over in Gonzaga. Gonzaga's primed for a very good run this year in the WCC. Their final year in the WCC as well. Mikey Bell is very good, hitting .436 last year in conference play for Gonzaga with 13 bombs. He's someone that's primed to break out as well. Well, we've kind of talked about it. Top 10 players to know for this year. Well, I also got some awards. This is my preseason award watch list for some guys. The player of the year, we just talked about Harrison Feinberg, just talked about Caden Bogenpole, but Blake Cavill. Blake Cavill is someone that we need to watch out for. He is primed to go off for this Troy lineup this year. Troy was a team that last year they missed the national tournament, one of the last 4 teams in. They could have made it. They couldn't make it. RPI was a huge factor in that. This Troy team is going to come in with a chip on their shoulder this year. They're going to be wanting all the heat. They're going to be wanting all the smoke. They're going to be coming in hungry. Everyone was talking about Coastal Carolina last year, Southern Miss last year. No, this Troy Trojans team with Coach Meade at the helm still, they had a very successful transfer portal class this year, and I expect them to be fully in the NCAA tournament this year. Blake Cavill is going to be leading the way for them. Caden Bogenpole and Missouri State as well. I mean, his success is what will determine if the Missouri State Bears will be good or not, in my opinion. If he is healthy, he will continue to be very good, and he will be in talks for the player of the year at the mid-major level. Harrison Feinberg, I can rave about him for the next hour, it feels like. But Caden Bogenpole, he is Harrison Feinberg, very, very good at this top level. He's expected to be a huge part of this Northeastern lineup again. I expect him to take this Northeastern lineup to the next level, especially with some guys looking to make an impact that weren't in the lineup last year. Pitcher of the year, I told you guys we would talk about Cam Flukie, and here we are. We'll talk about Ethan Norby and Ryan Borberg in a minute, but Cam Flukie, it feels like every day I get on Twitter and I see Matt Williams and the Coastal Carolina baseball analytical Twitter talking about how explosive Cam Flukie's fastball is. Watching Cam Flukie in Omaha last year was a sight in itself. I've gotten to watch some very talented arms in my life. This last Thursday, I got to see Gio Rojas pitch for Stoneman Douglas. He's a projected top 10 pick in this upcoming MLB draft. But nothing is like seeing Cam Fluke's fastball up close in person. It was just a sight in itself. It explodes out of his hand, and you look at the gun, you're just like, how the heck is that not like 105? Cam Fluke will just lead this Coastal Carolina rotation this year. Hayden Johnson's expected to follow him in that rotation with a bunch of their bullpen arms returning from last year. Cam Fluke, it feels like every Friday night you're going to be tuning in to just 7 innings, no runs, 10 Ks every time, because he has that fastball. He has this great off speed. It feels like he's going to be getting a lot of swings and misses this year. Ethan Norby for East Carolina. Last year, there was a period in time where he was not starting Friday nights for the Pirates. ECU struggled a lot last year. He struggled last year. This pitching staff struggled last year. It's a very young pitching staff. But Ethan Norby is one of the best mid-major, not even best mid-major pitchers. He is one of the best pitchers in the country. Ethan Norby, I expect him to lead this ECU pitching rotation. I expect him to just be dominant on the mound. I got to see him pitch in Clearwater last year at the American Conference tournament. And his slider is ridiculous. Obviously, he's had some competitiveness. In his family with his brothers playing Major League Baseball, so he can rise to that challenge pitching at such a high level in East Carolina. I expect him to be one of the best pitchers in college baseball in a whole this year. He's very good, and I expect him to take this Pirates pitching staff to the next level. Ryan Borberg from Dallas Baptist. Ryan Borberg is very interesting as well because Dallas Baptist is in their final year in the CUSA. They're going over to the Pac-12 next year, and he is a very talented arm. Dallas Baptist is always a low, under-the-radar team that you look into the national rankings, you're like, oh, Dallas Baptist is 15. Oh, they're 12. Oh, they're hosting a regional. But they never get past that regional. They never get to that supers. They never get to Omaha. This is the year that Dallas Baptist can easily shake it up, and Ryan Borberg could be the main reason why. Dallas Baptist, they bring in a lot of talent, but the main headline guy is going to be Ryan Borberg on Friday nights. And then Coach of the Year. I feel like I couldn't put in Will Davis because I'm repping him. And I'm just kidding. Will Davis is one of the brightest minds, one of the youngest, smartest, brightest minds in college baseball. It feels like every year, these last couple of years, when you see the coaching carousel going on, he is mentioned, and then he always stays loyal to Lamar. This could be the year we could see Will Davis jump to another school, another Power 4 school. I know Lamar fans do not like me saying that, but Will Davis is one of the smartest minds in college baseball, the former LSU Tiger and assistant LSU Tiger coach. He is one of the brightest minds, and he could be a huge reason why Lamar wins this Southland. Him and his staff have done a phenomenal job bringing in talent through the transfer portal. They've acknowledged the new age transfer portal, and they've done a phenomenal job. If you go through their whole roster, there's only a handful of freshmen. They understand the assignment. They understand, okay, we might not be able to compete with some of these bigger schools for some of these top-notch talents that we can just go through the transfer portal, get some of these best mid-major players, and we can compete with the talent we have. Lamar was a 3 seed in the Southland tournament last year. They could have made some runs to maybe get to that championship series, but they went 0-2 barbecue last year. But this is a team that could take that next step this year with the veteranship on this team. The veteran leadership on this team could easily take that step to the next team. You see teams like Indiana in college football, where you look at the average age is 23, 22, where you bring in players that have that experience. That is what Will Davis and this Lamar team really did. They brought in players that have that level of pedigree, that championship pedigree from other schools that have been kind of overlooked. They're bringing them into this team now, and I would not be surprised if Lamar is even we're talking a multi-bid Southland this year, because I could see Will Davis and Lamar having a high enough RPI, being in Texas where your mid-majors, your midweek games are against Texas A&M, Texas State, some other very good Texas schools, Texas Tech, Houston. Those midweeks aren't an off day for some of these teams. Lamar just in the fall beat Texas in a fall scrimmage. Now, everyone calm down. Fall scrimmages do not matter, 100%. But it shows what this Lamar team can really do and can really display. It's kind of hey, we're putting the world on notice here. Hey, don't worry. Will Davis and Lamar's here. Don't worry. I'm really excited to see Will Davis and this Lamar squad get to action this week. Kevin Schnall, I mean, if you can't mention Coach of the Year without Kevin Schnall and the job he's done already with Coastal Carolina in year one, taking Coastal Carolina to the College World Series finals. In both years, they've made it to the College World Series final. Kevin Schnall has been on staff. So in my head, I was thinking, is Kevin Schnall the recipe for Coastal Carolina making it to the College World Series finals? 2016, 2025? Is there a little coincidence here? No, but Kevin Schnall, one of the most fired up guys you can have, one of the guys you want to play for that coach because of how fired up, how he defends his players. Obviously, we got to talk about Game 2 of the College World Series finals, where he was wrongfully ejected for some umpire shows. The lights were the brightest for some of the umpires there. And he's got to serve a 2-game suspension for some antics that he didn't deserve to be ejected for. But he, as a player, I've talked to some guys in the transfer portal this past year that ended up going to Coastal Carolina and going to some other schools. They said playing for Kevin Schnall and seeing that moment, that made me want to play for him even more. And then I threw in a little wild card here. Eric Valenzuela at St. Mary's over in the West Coast. This is a St. Mary's team that was very, very close to making they did make the national tournament last year. But this is a team that can easily take that next step and make it back-to-back championships and make it back to the national tournament again. Very wide open conference. San Diego, Gonzaga, St. Mary's expected to be the top 3 in that conference. Eric Valenzuela does return some very, very key pieces as well. So I'm very excited to see this team get to action. And then I had to add teams that will shock us. As you can see, the Mercer Bears in the SoCon, the Rice Owls in the American, and the Navy Midshipmen in the Patriot League. You got to respect the Navy, of course. I think these are teams that are going to shock us. On Thursday, we'll be back on Thursday. We're going to jump into more previews of some of the top series. And one of the things I'm going to add is my Omaha 8, but mid-major edition, the 8 mid-majors at this time and age that have the best shot to make it to Omaha. But I wanted to talk about Mercer, Rice, and Navy. Mercer in the SoCon, they're primed for a little run in the SoCon now. After a little down year, they went 35-25 with a 4 seed in the conference tournament, and then they lost in the first game, made a nice run, but ended up losing again. This is a team that returns their ace, Jess Ackerman, who's expected to be one of the top arms in the SoCon, and it was even picked in the Diamond Report for pitcher of the year. He's expected to be a dog this year for the Mercer Bears. And talking to some teams in the SoCon, that's the impression I've gotten as well. They bring in some other key pieces to add to that rotation, and Caleb Hughes coming in from Sunbelt Southern Miss. And they bring in a lot of other veteranship as well. Dylan LaPointe from FAU, and Luca Perillo from Virginia Tech to add experience to that lineup. Dylan LaPointe at FAU last year, he was a very big part of that whole catching rotation they had as well. Rice, the Rice Owls, their head coach, David Pierce, he knows how to win. Whether you like it or not, whether you're a Texas fan, a Tulane fan, any other fan that Pierce coached, you understand that he knows how to win. He had a very difficult job last year coming in to Rice in the middle of the year, and it's really tough to make your adjustments in the middle of the year. So last year, talking to some sources out in the American, my impression was he was coming in, understanding the feel of the team, and then really going in and grasping into his first offseason, what do I need to do to turn around this historic program? Um, David Pierce, he comes back with a lot of returning pieces. Obviously, they lose some really big pieces. Blaine Brown over at Tennessee now. Davion Hickson, he got drafted, but he was going to go to Mississippi State if he wasn't drafted. He still brings back Michael Zito and Jacob DeVinny. Michael Zito was a very, very key returner for this Rice Owls team. He was a very good freshman for the Owls last year. But David Pierce, if he established his program in the fall and they looked solid and they build off some building blocks here, this is a team that could be easily middle of the pack in a very, very loaded American. They can win some series here and there, but I expect Rice to be in the middle of the pack in the American and maybe even shock some people, win some series here and there. They can steal a series from teams like FAU, USF. They might go to UTSA, win that in-state rivalry. Never know. And then the Navy midshipmen. This was one of my favorite previews to read in the Diamond Report, and then learning about them more and more. Monty Taylor did a phenomenal job with this one, as they return essentially their whole roster from last year. Brady Bendick on the mound returns from them after having a solid year last year in the Patriot League. Victor Izturdo at first base for the Navy midshipmen. This is a team that I think they will win the Patriot League. They will get into the national tournament, but I will not be shocked when we're sitting in our houses in late May, early June. We're watching them upset a 1 seed day one of the national tournament, because this Navy midshipman team is very, very sneaky. So do not be shocked when you see Navy. You got to respect your troops, right? Navy, do not be shocked when you see them go into a 1-0 game against a 2 seed and you're suddenly like, oh wait, a 1 seed's got to win 3-4 times now to get to that next super regional. You never sleep on those 4 seeds. That's what we've learned so far. Finally, we're going to talk about our good friend. Part of this new partnership at College Baseball Central is we have partnered up with Pair Ratings. If you do not know who Pair is, he is a fantastic resource. His website is free. There's a whole lot of stuff you can do, especially for the mind of a college baseball fan. If you want to go see how your team's going to do this year, he has a whole season simulator on it now where you can project wins and losses for certain teams. So I was going to ask him to do this, but thank God, Pear's thinking 5 steps ahead of me. He made his total strength, team overall strength ratings already. And I want to break this down. So the team strength rating, some of these numbers are high, some of these numbers are low. Obviously, Coastal Carolina being the top seed, or the number 1 here, shouldn't really shock anyone. They were in the college baseball or College World Series finals against LSU and a national seed last year. For the average fan thinking, Andrew, what is TSR? Team strength rating. It is measured by the quality and likelihood of winning by adding their offensive, defensive, and pitching capabilities, and it has the adjustment for the strength of schedule. So you're seeing teams like Coastal Carolina, Dallas Baptist, Southern Miss, UCI, East Carolina. They all had very strong strength of schedules. Obviously, Coastal, Southern Miss being here doesn't really shock me, but Dallas Baptist and the CUSA, they're in that same boat as well, with playing some very strong midweeks. They go up to Oklahoma. They host Oklahoma. They play 1-1 against Oklahoma. They have a lot of very strong midweeks. They had LSU in a midweek. Same with ECU. They have Virginia. They have North Carolina. They have Charlotte. Those are very strong in-state opponents. Then you have UC Santa Barbara, who had some of the best pitching in the country last year. Tyler Bremner went number 2 overall. Cal Poly. These are teams like seeing teams like UC Santa Barbara, Cal Poly, San Diego, Santa Clara, Cal State Fullerton, Grand Canyon. this doesn't shock me because when you think of, let's take LSU, for example. LSU last year from midweeks, they played North Dakota State, who comes down, obviously. They play some in-state opponents, but you look at California and this big state where you have D1 teams coming a couple hours from each other. They're not afraid of playing each other. They love playing each other. Some teams are afraid to play LSU. Some teams where you have fans begging their coaches, "Coach, we need to play LSU. We're only an hour and a half away from them. Come on, coach, let's play LSU." And they finally make that wish come true this year. These teams in California aren't afraid to play each other. They want to play each other. So seeing teams like UCSB, UCI, that doesn't shock me. One team that I feel like is not getting enough love, and we'll talk about this more on Thursday, Stetson at 18. They won the ASUN last year due to a formality, a whole other thing in the ASUN tournament. Stetson is returning a lot of key pieces. They are returning a lot of quality pitching. I get it. Evan Dempsey is very good for FGCU, and Austin Pay, who is not on this list actually. Austin Pay, they have a lot of good pieces. But this Stetson team is known for their pitching. You look at historically, the pitching they have, very solid and very good pitching. I fully expect the Stetson team to be in that ASUN mix, and I wouldn't be shocked to see them win the regular season title and then finally win an ASUN conference championship the right way, where you can dogpile and not have to play rock, paper, scissors, shoe in a rain delay for a few hours. A lot of these other teams, you have Grand Canyon, where it feels like they always have some other good in-state competition at Arizona. It's very, very good. It's a very good time to be a college baseball fan. We are so close. We are 4 days now. It is Monday. We are 4 days away from college baseball coming back. This Thursday, we're going to be talking some series of the week. I want to thank everyone for coming to the first live edition of the Riedell Report. If you didn't get to catch the whole episode today, you can go on YouTube. You can go on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast needs. YouTube, this will be uploaded shortly after. And then Twitter, it'll be on Twitter forever and ever until Elon deletes this app for some reason. On Thursday, we're going to be jumping into some of the top series, some of the top invitationals, these round robins that teams are playing. I mentioned it, my mid-major Omaha 8. We're going to jump into that. We're going to jump into some more players into more top players in the mid-major level. And you guys can ask some questions. I didn't really get to interact with the fans that much this episode, because I wanted to just establish the basis of the Riedell Report. But I'm so happy to have all y'all along for this journey. College baseball is so back. I will see you guys Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Good night.